Okie dokie, it's recording. Welcome to the pod. Oh, I've already done the intro. I don't need to do it again.
No, you're good.
I'm like, fuck it, it's fine.
No, just go for it.
Welcome to the Actor and Agent, aka the Dirt or the Skinny, with me, Jen.
And me, Snejina.
In this podcast, we will talk about things that you may or may not be into. Obviously, myself being an actor and Snejina being an agent. Today, we are going to talk more about the agenting side, if that's even a word. Agenting?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So yes, it's interesting timing, actually, isn't it, Snejina, that we are talking about being an agent today?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Trying to not have the rage show through. Actually, right before we started this podcast this morning, somebody decided that they were unhappy with the terms of their contract and did not show up for a shoot without telling me.
I mean, I'm sorry. In this current climate where there's so many people out of work, desperate for work, that's just incredibly insulting.
Yeah, to say the least.
Oh, you're
To
being
say the
so
least.
careful.
I am.
But yes, I mean, obviously having never been an agent myself or experienced it, I can only imagine how infuriating that must be. And I mean, I think it's changed quite a lot over the years, hasn't it? Because obviously where you've dipped in and out and you've had different experiences as an agent, as far as like the early years versus now, do you notice quite a big difference?
Oh, 100%. Because, well, okay, so that was about 10 years ago. No. Well, when I started, 8 to 10 years ago. And I worked at a big agency, very reputable. So we got a lot of really amazing talent applying, which was great. But just I feel like overall, just the attitude of people who apply to be actors now versus then is just so different. I feel like the more things like Instagram have flourished as like a part of regular life, I feel like everyone kind of feels like they can be a model or an actor and that it's easier and that they can just get an agent and that things will happen. Because it's that instant gratification, that Instagram mindset. And obviously, that can create a lot of issues. Whereas I feel like before, the people who were applying were people who had gone to, school for acting, or they thought about it, since they were a kid, and this is really something that they want to do. Not saying that you have to have done any of those things to apply, but there was just a little bit more commitment behind it in the past versus now, where I feel like now it's just a little bit more willy-nilly. Like, oh, I'll just apply. Oh, I'll just become a model. Oh, I'll just become an actor. And I'll just wing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, obviously, when I first applied to you, that was obviously, dare I say, the glory days. Probably for you. Not because of me, but I just mean that time, I feel like, I know for me, I definitely had like, side part-time jobs, but my main focus, even though obviously I would, tell my parents and family, like, no, of course, obviously job comes first. No, acting and stuff like that came first. If I could have a flexible job, and I got, oh my God, acting work? What? Oh, I'd be so excited. I would drop anything. Literally drop anything to try and make it work, because that's what I wanted. Whereas I've had conversations with you and it doesn't seem like it's the same kind of vibe. I'm sure you still have like people that are like very dedicated and whatnot, which obviously you do.
100%. Yeah, totally.
But I do feel like, yes, the overall mindset has changed. And I do think Instagram is kind of to blame in a way.
Yeah. I feel like, well, not to get like too psychological about it, but it's hard not to. That I just feel like before, when people were applying to be actors or models, it's because that's what they had decided they want to do, and treat it more like a career path, and less of a hobby. But now I feel like with things like Instagram and just online work, people do a lot of things on the side. So instead of treating this like a real job and a career, they're treating it almost like who's doing background would treat it, where it's like, oh, I'll just say yes and no to whatever, and I'll just do whatever pleases me. And they don't think they understand the competitive nature of the industry, how much work we put into things every day. I feel like people really take for granted how much work I put in behind the scenes to try and get people auditions, to try to get people work, to forge those connections with casting, with clients. And so when I'm doing that and then I'm offering you a great opportunity and you're saying no because you just don't like it or whatever, it's like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so there's probably going to be a lot of people, and even for me, there's a lot of stuff I don't really understand. So as far as like the work behind the scenes, like as far as like, I don't know, as far as building relationships and doing all those kind of things, like when you think of like a day to day as to what you do to try and make sure that people have work or have opportunities to potentially get work, what does that look like your day to day, like how you go about forging those relationships?
Yeah, well, obviously now I own my own business. So when you're starting your own business, you need to market yourself like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to create your image, your ethos, what you believe in, and, market accordingly to that. So it's very different. I mean, like, just to talk about acting, I mean, you have to have a really solid relationship with casting. They have to trust your choices. They have to appreciate your talent selection. You have to curate your submissions very well. And that, I mean, there's just so many levels to it. Like, just from like submitting somebody to a movie role, you have to read the synopsis, see who's making it, read the character roles, think about who would be good for it, put them forward, write notes, maybe connect to casting and try to push for them if it doesn't happen. And you're doing this like 1,000 times a day for like everybody all the time.
And I'm sure there would be a lot of like people that would listen, be like, well, can't you just submit, all of your clients for like every role and just, go at it that hard? I know the answer. Feel like, it's okay.
Of course you do. But I feel like just for other people listening, because it does kind of make more sense if you put it into perspective, anybody can do that. Anybody can click a button and stick somebody in a role. But the difference is carefully selecting and curating things, and casting obviously notices, and then they'll trust you. Because if they're requesting somebody and they're getting, a tape back of somebody who really is unsuitable for whatever you've submitted them for, or who doesn't necessarily do the greatest job, which can sometimes happen, but for the most part, if they see that consistency from you as an agent of like being selective, of really understanding who somebody is as an actor and as a person and connecting them with the right roles, then that's when you build that respect with casting, and that's when they ask, they have repeat audition requests and things like that.
Of course, which definitely does not happen overnight. Like, oh, no. I'm sure there's like new actors that approach you. Like, let's just say there's a new actor that has approached you for representation. They don't really have a lot of work, but they're like as in credits, but they've got, solid work ethic, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna take a while, unless of course they've got a very, very specific look that casting are looking for at that particular time, for you to be able to massage that relationship and get them to trust you to bring that person in, right?
Yes, of course. And it's just so competitive. There's so much work. I think people don't understand how many submissions casting gets and how many of that exact same kind of looking person has been put forward for a role, and what sets you apart from the other 1,000 people that look similar to you.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, for example, when you're starting out and you have nothing really to show for. You don't have a demo, you haven't booked anything. What I get the actors to do is to shoot some contrasting scenes at home, like a self-tape, and put those on the website so that when I'm submitting them, I can, attach that to the submission, and casting can get a taste of who they are and how and their acting ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the number one thing that people let fall through the cracks.
Really?
I feel like yes. I feel like, of course I have those actors who are very dedicated and get them to me like right away, and they're great, and I love those people for it. And you know what? They're the ones getting called in. But for a majority, I'm going to say, of other people, they feel like it's enough that they've gotten their headshots and that they've signed up for these sites.
If getting headshots is the it's like, oh, I've got headshots, so I should be booked now.
Yeah, pretty much. They think, and I tried to explain to them, they're just seeing a photo, and they're not. How do they back anything up with that? They don't know if you can act. You don't have anything on your resume, like exactly like you said. Unless they have this amazingly specific look or something that they're really looking for in that moment, they're not going to call you in just because you have a pretty face or whatever. So you need to put in some work on your end, show them what you can do. And I just feel like that's a lot of work for most people now who have applied to be actors.
Wow. That's actually quite shocking.
I really have to coach people a lot to do stuff. I really have to prod them a lot to get these kinds of things done. And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, I'm completely aware of that. I know, as far as my experience of dealing with agents in the past, which obviously is completely different, but I know from my experience, especially with my voiceover agent, who are amazing, by the way, they are... They literally, so they're very, very specific about how the file should be named. If there's any extra stuff that I need to submit with that, and also there's a deadline. So obviously, the last thing I want to do is, not put it in the right file name or miss the deadline or miss something. And it has happened where I've maybe not signed an NDA and just completely missed it.
Human error, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But that cost me because, my voiceover agent just, because they're so busy, they don't have time to go through everything and be like, right, okay, we need to rename that, we need to do this, where's the NDA, let's chase her for that, let's do this, let's do that. And I just, if I don't have everything and all my ducks in a row, I miss out on that opportunity. And I kind of think that's kind of a good thing in a way. It keeps me on my toes, that's for sure.
It's just, and I think that's also an interesting thing to talk about, just the different industries between being in the UK, very, very busy place, versus Vancouver, which is also busy, but like on a way smaller scale. And I feel like maybe 40% of people, and that might be a lot, will actually send me an audition and their stuff correctly. Maybe even less than that.
Only 40%?
So, yeah, maybe less. I think 40% is quite gratuitous, honestly. Ooh, I think most of the time I'm constantly renaming files. People text me their auditions last minute. So for me to give them a lecture about it at that point is just not worth it, because at the end of the day, I want to send it in.
Of course.
And, I've done things differently where I will send emails to my roster and I will say, how to properly prepare a self-tape. But, people, or maybe 15% of people read that and actually absorb it and do it. But for the most part, I feel like people just glaze over it and they're like, whatever, like she'll just do it for me, or they don't even think it's an issue. But the biggest thing I think as an actor that you should do, especially now with COVID, is get comfortable with your computer. Mm-hmm. Get iMovie or some kind of easy editing software. It's literally like a monkey could use iMovie. It's so easy. Actually, monkeys are really smart, but a dog could use iMovie. It's so easy to use. You just drag and drop and export it. Like, you know what I mean? And I have to constantly do that every day with like at least half of my auditions that I get.
Oh my God. See, that's just mental to me. I've got iMovie on my phone. And if I had an Android, I would find something that was the equivalent. It's just, it's mind-boggling that, because the thing is, there's going to come a time where you're going to get busier and there's going to be your main actors that are doing what they need to do. And then there's other ones that might have solid talent, but just aren't giving you what you need to submit. So there might, you might get to that point where you can't just like edit their parts together or, do you know what I mean?
It'll fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I've already gotten to the point where I'm almost too busy to do that. I'm just a maniac and I'm able to do it. But, I mean, I think I'm empathetic to like single moms, for example, who aren't that tech savvy and they're busy and they want their kid to be a part of this, lifestyle because they enjoy it. And, maybe they just can't really figure out how to use it. Or like older people on my roster who are just, I've explained it to them and they just don't really get it. Yes, okay, of course I will help you out. But they also send it to me with time to figure that out. And they ask me, yes, please, could you just help me out, like to edit this little part here because I'm not really sure how to do it. Sure, okay. I mean, I'll do that for you. But for other people,
you're so nice.
I know, it's disgusting.
No, it's good.
It's partially maybe my fault, but at the same time, I have said so many times, like, please prepare your files and send them to me. And people, another thing, people don't understand how to send files. They'll constantly message me, this file is too big to add to the email. And I'm like, in pretty much every single document that I send with an audition of how to do a self-tape, I write, use WeTransfer. It's free. You drag and drop it in there and you put an email and it'll send it. Or do a Google folder link or whatever the million types of transferring services that you can send to me.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Jen, sometimes I will get YouTubes where you can't download them. And it's just
I don't even know what to say.
Use your common sense.
Wow.
Use your common sense, please.
I mean, fair enough if you'd asked for like an unlisted YouTube link to try and, share that link with casting, fair enough. But because I have had a couple of those, but I also, I don't know, I just feel like, come on, get with the program, some people. Like, most people can probably try and figure out. And if you're listening, actors, you gotta try and step up a little bit. I understand it's hard, but once you give it a good go, it does get easier. It really does. I mean, even voiceover editing, I find really hard. And the expectations I have are friggin' huge. I've got to record 3 characters talking to each other and laughing, cheering, and I'm mixing them all together to make them sound like they're all individual people.
If I had that request for somebody, I wouldn't even tell them that because it would be a disaster. I'd be like, oh, great. No, now I'm going to have to edit all this stuff together. And I'd be calling Jen, how do I edit this together?
Honestly, if ever there's a situation like that, just send me all the files. I'll put them in Adobe Audition and I will edit them together because I'm at least...
Thank God for you.
No, but the thing is but I had a little training session for voiceover anyway. Obviously, this is totally separate. But I did have a little training session with there's a studio that's affiliated with my my agency. And they did it was an hour training on how to use this editing software, which is Adobe Audition that I use. And that little training, okay, I wasn't perfect afterwards. And it did take a little bit of sorting out. But that really, really helped me. And even looking on YouTube has so much stuff online. If I'm stuck, just YouTube it. There's bound to be someone who's in the exact same pickle that you're in.
I feel like a lot of friends and other people around me, when I tell them the types of questions I get, they always say, why don't they just Google it? I'm like, great question, because they feel like I'm the Google and they don't need to go to the trouble, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, anyone who's listening, from the way I'm talking about what I do, I'm very, very lenient. I'm very empathetic towards situations. If you're with some hardcore agent, they're not going to put up with getting files mislabeled or not sent properly or sent in pieces. They're going to send it back to you and say, no, or we didn't submit it. Or they probably won't even tell you that they didn't submit it. They'll get it and they'll say, oh, this is way too complicated. I don't have time for this. Delete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, casting. We didn't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, anyway, well, I'm
yeah.
sure that's going to
Sorry.
come up. No, I'm sure that's going to come up
Yeah.
quite often because I think it's probably like a day in the life
know.
of being an agent. Like,
Well, sorry to sound bitter about it. It's just, it's literally the daily struggle. So
Yeah.
it can be quite frustrating.
well, you're busy enough and you're trying to get people work hard. So the last thing you need to do is also try and, basically sort out people's auditions to also get them their work. That's meant to be on them, So no, I totally get it. Okay, so say casting have picked someone, right? And they get an audition. Do you kind of give them like a rundown of so say if they're like quite new, would you give them like a what do you give them before they go to an audition? Is there any stuff you give?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously right now it's very different. Everything we do is self-tape at home.
Mm-hmm.
So actually you need a lot more explanation with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've created a lot of documentation of how-tos to do everything, and I'll connect that to the email. And then, I always leave the line open for, especially new parents or people who just aren't as savvy and don't really understand how things work, to just message me and ask me questions. I always encourage them to send things way ahead of time so that we can review it together and see if, there have been any issues. Actors, learn how to slate.
Yeah, again, not hard.
It's not very difficult.
Okay,
it's
so
in all the paperwork I sent.
Yeah, so say what is a
slate?
basic slate? Yes.
Basic slate is name, height, location, and agency.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with that. I know. So, I mean, for some countries it might be different.
Yep.
Like I have an actor who's in Australia and their slating process is quite different than here. But for Canada, and I think for most of the world, if you say your name, height, location, and agency, you're covering, kind of enough for them.
Definitely.
So,
and as far as recording, if someone's recording a self-tape, would it be vertical or horizontal?
Yeah, so just I think cinematically so, casting likes to have everything horizontal. And I literally have to put this all through the email. Please make it horizontal. I think that it's finally entered everyone's brain.
Good.
Because I haven't gotten a vertical one for a long time.
Good.
But it's funny because even when because a lot of the time, like for commercials, they like to see your full body.
Yes.
So they like you to do your slate with your face and then like zoom out and show your full body or pan or something.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, I can't do that horizontally. I have to do it vertically. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you just need to zoom out or move it back or even just clip it in like from your face and then from far away.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, but it's just, for me, it's just use your common sense. Google it because there's so much information of how to tape auditions online as well.
Mm-hmm.
And read the documents that your agent sends you and read the instructions from casting. That's another thing. People just really need to be more diligent about the details.
Yeah.
They really need to read their emails that they get because all the information that you need will be on there. And
yes,
I mean, I'm sure you can imagine how many questions I get that are already answered in an email. So, just be diligent about it.
Oh God, 100%. I mean, if you've got a request for a self-tape or God forbid an in-person audition, you want to read everything that's in that brief because there's always some hidden clues somewhere there or something that you need to pay attention to, even if it's just like I was saying before, like file name or an NDA needs to be signed, or they want a slate, or maybe they don't want a slate, or maybe they want to see your hands, or come on.
Actually, just as we were speaking, I got a text message or an email from casting. Somebody has a callback today and they hadn't filled out their forms that they were supposed to fill out when they were sending the audition through.
Right.
Because a lot of people aren't going in person now. And when you go in person, they make you fill out forms. So now it's all digital. And on the email specifically, it says, please fill out this form before you send the audition. And now I've received an email, this person's form is missing, and they're having a callback today. So it means that whoever got that email totally disregarded that part of it and haven't sent it in. So it's just little things like that where it just like it'll make you seem more professional, and then plus you can do it all at once, and I'm not going to be bugging you in the middle of the day to do something, whatever.
Oh, 100%.
Just little details like that.
Yeah. And you know what, just to switch it up a little bit, what would you say are the things that you love about being an agent?
Yeah, this is probably good. Well, I love working with people. I love just meeting different types of people, and I get so excited when I get somebody their first audition and they do really well. I just love the film industry so much. I find it so interesting. I feel like the types of shows and movies that are coming to Vancouver now versus when I first started are a lot higher quality. It's stuff that I actually watch and I enjoy. And yeah, just the whole process of like getting somebody from point A to point Z, and of course the first bookings, and yeah, it's all very exciting. It's kind of like, playing the lottery, because you're sending things in and, is it going to go? Is it going to work? Are they going to be put on hold? Are they going to book it? We don't know. And then it's just exciting every time you get that email, like so-and-so's on hold or shortlisted or whatever. Even just getting emails with audition requests, I get excited.
Of course.
'Cause that's a chance for somebody. And you know what's so nerdy of me? I'm just happy when I get audition requests that those actors have a chance to, be creative and to do the audition. I'm just happy for them.
Yeah, well,
that they have an opportunity.
I mean, to be honest, that's what you, as an actor, that's what you would want your agent to feel like. You'd want them to be like really excited that you actually, you're not just like just a number out in a sea of actors. You've actually been requested, or you have a little spot to shine in for a little bit.
And I think people, maybe with commercials they do call in a lot of people to audition, but for anything for film and TV, or if you're getting requested, you should feel lucky, because they've received thousands of submissions for that role and they picked you for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's something to feel special about, especially at the beginning. Maybe when you've built up a reputation with casting, then of course they'll be calling you in more consistently. But if you're a new face and you're getting this opportunity, you need to be excited, because
100%.
There's been a lot of hoops to go through to get to that point. And I think people don't really realize that sometimes. So the excitement that I get when a new face gets a request, I'm like, yes, this is their opportunity to get their foot in the door. Like, there's so many people waiting to get their foot in the door, and this person just started and they're going to get their foot in the door, and yay.
No.
And so, yeah, just embrace it and love it and be excited.
100%.
That makes you happy.
No, that's really nice to hear. And I think anyone who's either looking for an agent or has an agent or doesn't even know anything about acting at all, it would be quite nice to hear that, because sometimes people look at agents and casting and directors, and they basically look at all of them as if they're the gatekeepers, when actually really, an agent is there to enable that you get work. They're like, they're the ones, not really the gatekeepers, but they're just like, I don't know how else to word it. It's just, they're kind of rooting for you in the corner. They're not like telling you like, no, this gate's shut. They're trying to like open the doors too. They're like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
So
actually, that's a great segue of people assuming that you're not trying to put them forward for work. And I'm just like, why would I have brought you on? This only beneficial for me to try and get you in the door and get you work, right? Like you're saying, like that's our main goal.
Yeah.
So, and we're working really hard to get there. So I think I really appreciate, I think you follow an account on Instagram that is really good at giving perspective to actors.
Yes.
Like,
act on this.
It's not your agent. It's
It's you.
or
yeah.
whatever.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? And I would highly recommend anyone, literally anyone who's in the acting industry across the world, to have a look at Act on This. I am a member of it, so I get to join all of the webinars and loads of stuff. But it's, you know what? It's incredibly valuable. And actually, I would love at some point to get Ross on here. Because he's just so inspiring. I mean, I don't know him personally, but he's just so like, I don't know, he just seems like he's so jazzed. Like, he's so jazzed, and he's just like, he asks the right questions, and he's just, you know, he's a working, jobbing actor, and he's just someone that's just like, no, you know, I'm, you know, if I'm not getting auditions, then, you know, that doesn't mean that I'm not being submitted. It means that, okay, maybe I need to send out some more emails to casting. I need to be a bit more present on social media. I need to go and film something with my friends and like create, you know, I don't know, a better demo. Or there's literally, he's just so inspiring. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't speak highly enough of Act on This. I feel like I've basically just like told anyone to be like, go listen to that podcast.
This is our promo for Act on This.
I know.
No, it's. I mean, that's what we're here for. It's just to help people out and make connections. So of course,
100%. But also it's so okay. So there is something somewhere I want to go with that, but there's also I kind of also want to touch on. So obviously you have your modeling agency and the acting agency. Is there a big difference between the modeling side and the talent side?
Very big.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I could go on forever, but at the same time, just the two industries are very different. The film and TV industry, it's quite structured. There's, you know, rules, regulations. There's a union. There's kind of more set rates and things like that. It also attracts a different type of people, obviously. Like, pretty much anyone from all walks of life can try to be an actor if they've got the skill and the determination, right? And modeling, I feel like, first of all, I call it the Wild West because you just... every client is different. You have to forge your own connections. You have to negotiate every contract. Every single job has a different rate, has a different rule, has a different everything. And obviously, like the type, I mean, with my agency, we're trying to kind of change this, but it's obviously a lot more selective, like of being a model. I mean, there's just different kinds of parameters. For sure. It's like, you know, for lack of a better word, it's beautiful people who have something really unique and interesting about them. But of course, they're beautiful. They're attractive to look at. I mean, they're there to sell
a product, or
lifestyle, a product,
a brand
lifestyle, or clothing. So they need to be like quite attractive to other people. Whereas like actors can be kind of quirky or character looking, and it's just appealing on a different level. So obviously, it attracts very different types of people, and the two industries are quite different. However, creatively, they do go quite hand in hand. And I feel like in the past, people would be like, oh, modeling, like whatever, that doesn't take very much skill. That's quite wrong. You very much have to put on a character as when you're modeling as well on a shoot to embody a mood, a presence, an idea. Your movement, your expressions, your attitude. It's much like acting in a way, even if you're not speaking. Like, you know.
Oh, of course.
It's quite difficult. You have to be aware of your face, of your body, of everything, and it's like to a minuscule detail. So it could be quite intimidating and quite difficult as well. But I feel like if you're a creative person and you want to be expressive, that you know, it goes hand in hand. Definitely.
Well, I mean, I know for sure I would never been a very good model because I need to be moving. As soon as even headshots are really hard for me because obviously It's again, it's stationary, but I think the best photo of me, other than obviously my recent headshots taken by my husband, is definitely my favorite ever image is of me in a hot dog outfit.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Classic.
And it was like advertising getting new headshots, like being like, something about, I don't know, like all the different jobs that you would do as an actor.
Don't worry. We will make an Instagram and post the hot dog photo.
Definitely. It's got to be. Well, and also that was, that's a local in Vancouver anyway, headshot photographer, Shimon, who is amazing. I love Shimon. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's still doing his thing to this day.
Yeah. He's also super creative, which I think I really appreciate as well.
Very
I love
good imagination.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. But still, I just, I know full well I could never really be a model because I feel like when I was younger, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try modeling. And then there was like a few instances where I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. Then I was like, oh no, I am terrible. I can't do this.
Well,
I'm an actor.
I think that a good maybe way to explain it is that when you're an actor, you're rooted in becoming these different characters outside of yourself. I mean, some actors, of course. I think majority of them, they like to, you like to become other characters, right? Take on different personas. In modeling, I feel like although maybe you're sort of hitting on different moods and different characters, you're mostly rooted in yourself. So I feel like if you're not comfortable in yourself and who you are and sort of highlighting your features, it can be quite difficult. And it is difficult for people who are very self-conscious about themselves, or they haven't really like grown into themselves yet. Like, so especially like younger models. Like I remember when I first started modeling, I was like, what am I doing? What's my body doing? I don't understand. And I wasn't a very good model. So I feel like maybe that's also why you felt less comfortable with it, because you had to just be very rooted and confident completely in yourself, in your body, in your spirit. Whereas like, you know, sometimes it's just easier to play a character.
Oh my God. Yes, no, definitely. Well, I mean, I think actually it's probably quite valuable for you because obviously you have experience as a model. That do you feel like you can, well, I'm sure you must do, but I feel like you can kind of mentor your newer models and probably even existing models on like experiences that you've had, so that they feel like, you know, it's not like someone who's never done modeling before and they decided to become a modeling agent and they have no idea what some models can go through, you know.
Well, I think that it's very valuable that I had that experience before. I think it's one of those industries that if you haven't been there, you really don't understand at all. And so just to have that empathy and that explanation is just so, it's like rooted in what my company is about, really. And just making that connection. It's just from my experience, it can be such a rough experience in industry for young people that you really, really need a guide and somebody to help you and mentor you that's been there. And I feel like most agencies, to their benefit, do at least hire models to be a part of the development process.
Oh, that's good.
Because you can't really do it without that, I don't think.
Because I'm not sure all acting agents have tried acting before.
No, I think most of them haven't.
Yeah.
At all. But I think that, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just almost like with acting, I mean, if you watch like Entourage and things like that, like a lot of the agents in LA have like MBAs and like law degrees and things like that. Like it's just this other level of business because you're mostly dealing with like contracts and negotiations and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally.
On this very high scale, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. It's
anyway.
It's weird. It's yeah. Oh, yes.
Well, no. I was just gonna say, I think, well, obviously, everyone that I've encountered that I've worked with at agencies who are agents have a very strong appreciation for the film and TV industry. They love it. They have some sort of background, within it somehow, and you need to be connected to it somehow. Otherwise, it won't work. I don't think it'll work.
Yeah, and you've got to have I feel like I'd like to say most agents that I've come across, they've always kind of said, and also webinars that I've watched and podcasts, they always say that really empathy is actually a really big trait that you need as an agent, because obviously you're dealing with some of the most
makes me happy.
No, but it's true, because I guess you're dealing with the most like sensitive artists in a way, because it takes a lot. And I mean, I'm pretty good now with rejection, but at the beginning I found it so hard. And I feel like if you've got an agent that has a lot of empathy and can kind of be like, oh, like, it's okay, it's just a numbers game, or it's just this, or you were so close, or I don't know, anything. Because I know there are times when I've come out of an audition and I've been like, I nailed that, I booked it definitely, and then I never hear. Or I might alternatively come out of it and be like, I completely shat the bed on that, and then I book it. And I'm like, what?
Well, I think that's such an interesting topic to talk about probably in a full episode. It's just like the subjectivity of auditioning and of the booking process, and how, like, for the most part, you really, really cannot take it personally, because there are just so many factors, so many levels of approval, so many things that you have to go through to actually book something that, for the most part, I don't like, if you're a strong actor, it's probably not your ability that they're judging on. It's probably your hair color, or are you going to match this dad that they've already booked, or whatever.
100%. And I think that's actually what a lot of newer actors don't really understand. They just think, I must have been rubbish, that's why I didn't get it. Or that casting director just doesn't like me, so I didn't get it.
Well, for the most part, I try to instill from the first meeting with actors the subjectivity of things, so that from the get-go they know that they shouldn't take it as personally. Can you imagine kids? I rep a lot of kids.
Yeah.
They really take it to heart, the sweethearts, of course, because they don't understand. They don't really understand the magnitude of the industry. So it's just so sweet. But I think, like what you told me recently, that when you're auditioning now, you don't even consider it as like something that you're going to book necessarily. You're just like, well, this is just what I'm doing today. This is part of it.
Yeah, 100%. I think if anything, that mindset has probably kept me sane, because I literally, especially, well, obviously it's mainly voiceover at the moment, but with voice, I literally am just like, oh, okay. Like every night this week, I've been recording a voiceover audition, and I won't really get too caught up in it. I get excited to do it. I have that excitement, and then I edit it, and then I let it go, because I'm like, oh, cool. I just got to act for a little bit. That's nice. That's wicked.
And of course, that's not limiting like how much effort you're putting into it or anything.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm still going for it. I still come out sweating. So, it's in a soundproof box, sweating is all part of the course. In fact, I'm really sweaty now, but that's just the way it goes.
It's okay. I'm slightly sweaty.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, really, I think the dress code for being in these kind of environments is just a bikini, because you just can't. I'm literally wearing a jumper right now, and that's the worst thing I could have done. So I'm very sweaty. But as far as well, like. Sorry, I know obviously we're rocking on, but it's good. I think it's because obviously, don't get me wrong, people that are listening, this stuff is going to come up quite consistently, but obviously in different scenarios. Yeah. It's just, this is a good like overview, and you might find it interesting. But so as far as expectation, so we've already talked about what you kind of expect of your talent, as in, so, kind of read the brief, do what you need to do, make sure you include and sign the right forms if that's included in the brief. Basically, just read the brief. That will tell you what the file name is, how you need to send it, what you need to do, how you need to film it, all of those kind of bits and pieces. But another thing is that sometimes, on the flip side, actors have the expectation that, okay, so I've done this job now, so I'd probably be paid in next week. Is that right? Something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Because I do think this is valuable to talk about, because I think it's what
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize either.
So in these creative industries, and it's not only
I
modeling
love how you said
and
that. I was like,
acting,
in these creative industries.
in all types of creative industries, I feel like the payment process can be quite slack. And it's just this sort of antiquated thing of like, well, when I was modeling, let's say, for example, I used to do a job and be like, oh, I won't see that payment for 6 months. And that was just like a regular sort of thought in my head. Now, everyone's on me after 2 weeks, like, where's my pay? Is it coming in? And I'm like, well, no, it isn't. Just because, well, in the modeling industry, there's absolutely no regulations on when they have to pay you. If you're working for a bigger brand, they obviously have an accounting department, so it'll probably be a little bit more scheduled and together. But honestly, for the most part, unless, I mean, it's great because some clients will just pay the next day, which is amazing. And
That's
I'm like,
epic.
great, well, it makes sense. Why not? And then other ones, you'll have to chase them. But that's definitely something I'm trying to change, especially in the modeling industry, to get clients to pay in a more timely fashion.
Yeah.
Like I'll give them a month. But anyway, I feel like a safe bet for any actor or creative person is 30 days. After 30 days, this is for your session fee, which is the fee you get that you work from your work of that day or days or whatever. So I'd say 30 days is a safe bet to wait it out and then ask your agent.
Yeah.
And then, that's fine because sometimes you'll prompt them like, oh, that's right, it hasn't come in yet. Let's follow up. But typically, if you're part of a union, they should be paying you every 2 weeks. So I feel like those payments usually come in a little bit more consistently. But they're also paying in check through the mail. And especially these days, the mail, like the post system.
That's fine. Are you English?
Mail,
the postal system.
The postal system. No, mail has just been delayed and lost, and I've had to get a lot of things reissued just because it's been so busy with the pandemic. But I'd say if you're booking a union job, which in Canada that means it's most film and TV productions are under the union, like 90% of them. So you should be getting paid within 2 weeks. If you're booking a commercial, which is non-union, they don't have to follow any rules or regulations. So if they're diligent and, try to do things within a timely fashion, you can expect your session fee, which is, again, the daily fee that you get, to be paid out within a month. Then there's the issue of your buyout, which is what people always ask about. So the buyout is the large amount of money that you get from doing a commercial for them to use your image for however many years that it's been organized. And they will only decide whether you get that or not on the final cut. So I've had people shoot commercials in November, and the commercial's only due to air in April. So that means they have to wait until maybe early April or late March to even know if they've made the final cut, and they will receive that buyout. And then once we invoice them, we all have to wait for them to send that check in the mail to us and for you to receive it.
That's just crazy.
So,
I mean, it doesn't really surprise me too much, just because, I mean, every time I do a voiceover job, I probably get at least the session fee, probably. So it's probably about 60 working days.
Okay.
So it's quite long. Yeah, it's quite long. And then the buyout, I mean, usually I bank on at least between 6 months to a year.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But just to put it in perspective for people, that's just unfortunately how it works. And that it can be a very difficult industry to rely on steady income.
Yes. That's kind of why you almost want to do lots of bits, have it like as a snowball effect. So you just do lots of bits, you're probably not getting paid for like ages, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, amazing, all of this stuff's coming in, sweet.
Yeah.
Or just forget about it. That's the best thing to do as well. Just forget and be like, oh, look at that.
Honestly, that's what I used to do when I was modeling. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, see that at some point.
Do they ever do residuals still for stuff, or is it just mainly buyouts now?
I'm sorry if this is a dry topic, but for non-union commercials, the buyout is negotiated beforehand. So let's say it's $5,000 for like 1 year. And then if they renew it, they'll pay you that amount again. For union commercials, they base that off of residual payments. So what that means is it's dependent on how many times the commercial is shown on whatever medium. And then they sort of multiply these costs into payments, and they'll come in like sort of separately depending on when it's shot. It's super confusing.
Yeah, that is
I've
confusing.
Actually called the union to ask them about, well, because when you put people up for a union commercial, they'll just say scale and they won't really write anything else about the rates. So I was like, okay, but like, how does this actually work? And so I called the union to ask them, and they couldn't give me a straight answer. So
wow. So if the union doesn't even know, then that's a little bit
I think it's because for union commercials, it's just really dependent on what network, and like if they're showing it in just, BC or all of Canada, or if it's in the US, or if it's worldwide, and like the different types of networks. It seems really, really confusing. I feel like they could simplify it.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's mental. That's mental.
Yeah. Whereas like a non-union commercial will say, Canada-wide, 1 year, $5,000.
Yeah. And at least you know where you're at with that.
Exactly. It's nice. So when we get a union commercial and they're like, how much am I getting? I'm like, I have no idea. Sorry.
It's a potluck. Sorry, guys. One thing I wanted to make sure we spoke about before we left. Sorry, I know we haven't even paused at all in this one.
That's okay.
But how do you find, so as far as when, I know we've kind of sort of touched on this, but as far as the industry, how has the industry, especially in, Vancouver, how has it changed over the last, specifically over the last few years to now, but more specifically, do you think that COVID is going to permanently change how casting is? Do you think it will? Or?
I really hope so. I think that it's definitely more efficient for them, especially for things like commercials, to do self-tapes because they're able, and this is beneficial to actors actually, because they can see more people this way than just trying to organize an in-person session. Obviously that takes up a lot more time as well. So, I feel like it'll probably lead to more self-taping, which, is good and bad, because I feel like sometimes getting that connection with the casting director, especially when it's for a role, is really important. So maybe for like bigger roles, they'll obviously be calling you into the room, or at least at the callback.
Yeah.
But initially, and for smaller things, I think it's totally would be great if they continue this way, because it just gives more people an opportunity. So, which means that instead of them going within their small pool of people that they already know and being like, oh, we'll just call in these 5 people, let's say, this is just a small scale example, to do it because we rely on them and we trust them. And then they just won't really give and maybe like 2 other people from the new pool. Whereas probably now it's like triple that. It's like, oh, let's invite all these people from these new faces so we can see what they have to offer, because we have the time now to actually check it out. So I think that that's beneficial for new faces. And a nice thing is that, these days it's really hard. It's always been really hard to try and be a full-time actor. So I feel like the opportunity of like being able to work consistently full-time, doing something else, and being able to do self-tapes on your own time gives a lot more opportunity for people to try and get into the industry as well.
Yeah, actually, I never thought about it that way. That's actually probably, and it probably saves people on, travel going into into a session, and then also even just having to like take time out of their working day when they can just do it in the evening when they're done or whenever.
Exactly. So now I feel like that's even affected the types of people that I bring on to be actors. Like I have people who are in Victoria or in Kelowna where I'm like, you can easily just self-tape for this and I don't need to worry about you being within the vicinity of Vancouver and trying to make your audition. And like, is your job lenient enough to allow you to take an hour or two out of your day?
Yeah.
You know, the day before.
Totally.
For an audition. So I feel like it'll broaden opportunities for people, but it might also start to oversaturate the industry with actors even more because it would be a little bit easier to get into.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
No,
I think it's a two-sided thing. Like it's good and bad, but I think that for Vancouver specifically, the issue that we had, and we should talk about this another time with you, especially where before when you were acting like with me, how there was this political thing about any of the sort of principal and bigger roles were probably already being offered to people in LA. And they were just auditioning people in Vancouver to say that they did because they had to legally for the tax reasons, but they were already like offered or given to other people in Los Angeles, where I feel like that's really changed now. And I think it's a lot to do with certain casting here who have taken a stand and they're like, you know what? No, we're going to like look for people within Canada and give them a fair opportunity. Whereas before there was Canadian actors who would audition for the same role in Vancouver and then go to LA and audition for it there and like book it.
That's just
not the same
mental.
role, but like the same show.
Yeah.
And just go to LA and they would book stuff just because they were from LA or whatever. Even though, you know, it was so crazy and there was this weird all these politics about it.
Yeah.
I think you kind of remember that, right?
I do.
So for the most part, if people were going in for a guest star or a lead, everybody knew in the back of their head, oh, well, they've probably already offered this to somebody in LA or whatever. But I guess I'll just go in so that I can meet casting.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a chance that you'd book it, which I think that's still a bit of what's going on. But I think especially because they can't just consistently fly people out from all over the place to come here now, that they really are looking from within and probably realizing that there is some really great talent here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like even like as horrible as the pandemic was, it's given a lot of great opportunities to actors and people locally to have opportunities.
100%.
And also and we can also talk about how, you know, voiceover should change. Like if you have an at-home studio, you should be able to record stuff, you know, from wherever you are.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, to be honest, I think the voiceover industry hasn't really been affected that much at all. If anything, I feel like voiceovers with home studios were already ahead of the curve. I mean, loads of people had like the IDSN or the IPDTL, I think that's right, or which is basically like where you can patch straight into their studio.
Cool.
And I mean, I don't have any of that at the moment, but I still can use like what we're using to record this, which is Clean Feed, so I can beam you into my booth, and you can hear me, I can hear you, I can record you, but then also people can do that with me, and also there's things like Source Connect now, which is free. So is this is also free, which is Clean Feed. And then there's people even using like oh gosh, what else is it? I mean, people are even using like Google Hangouts and stuff to record. I mean, it's mental. It's mental. Like you don't actually have to have like an IDSN specifically, but it does help if you've got a good setup. And I do have a good setup here, so I'm very happy with that. Yeah. But I didn't have that before the pandemic. But if anything, it kicked my ass, and I was like, I better get that shit together, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we will dive more into the world of voiceover.
Yeah, totally.
Soon, which is also a very different side of things.
Yes.
Very brilliant and amazing side of things.
So awesome. So awesome. Yeah. I love it. I love it to death. Yeah. But what I was thinking about for the next episode, I mean, I don't know if this is even a possibility because I haven't even talked to him yet. But I was thinking maybe we could bring a guest on. Switch it up. You know who I'm going to say? You know who I'm going to say. Joshua. Yes! That's who I was thinking, because obviously, you know, Joshua has so much experience in the industry, like from literally almost every nook and cranny of the industry he's been in. You know, he's edited, he's acted, he's voiceovered, he's written, directed, produced. I mean, he's just basically everything. So it would be great to have him on there, and also the fact that he's a friend of ours as well, which is just nice. But it'd be just cool to like talk about his experience and ask him questions, and again, it still applies to acting and agenting. It's just obviously from a different perspective. Yeah,
exactly.
Because you know what,
actors take.
Yeah, exactly. And because you know what, like actors aren't always super. Oh gosh, they're not working all the time. So it's like the reality of like normal. No, but it's true. Like, so it's the reality of like the normal jobbing actor. Obviously, with Joshua, he's really going hard with his writing, and I can't wait. Yeah. I literally can't wait for any number of. He literally has probably like 20 things on the go right now, but I can't wait for one of them to just be like, you know, bam, done. So it'd be great to talk to him about that, and also when he was doing when he was doing voiceover, when he was doing voiceover, when he was acting, and also like how he felt when he was in Vancouver with us, because that's kind of a cool, just hearing his perspective. No, it's cool. I think it'd be great.
No, yeah, of course.
But I basically just thrown him in the deep end by mentioning about getting him on. But if it doesn't happen, I'll just delete this whole section.
He'll do it.
I hope so. I hope so, because that'd be really great. But regardless, it would be there's many things that we'll probably continue to bring up. Yeah, voiceover, guests. Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's loads of stuff. There's actually loads. But it's going to probably become. I think the overviews are probably going to be less and less, and then it's going to be more talking to people. Yeah, about their experiences and stuff, so that then it's like, okay, you've got like the background now, and here we go. Let's dive into the day to day.
And they can ask questions. Like we can open it up to people to ask questions.
100%. Yeah. The 2 people that might be listening.
The 2 people.
No, I'm quite confident.
And my mom.
So next week we will hopefully have a guest, and it should be the illustrious Joshua, which would be grand. We can talk to him all things industry. But until then, take care. Bye.
Bye.